Okay, well, my name's Nathan Ensby. I come from the east coast of Australia, in northern New South Wales, from Grafton. So I work for the New South Wales DPI on a soybean plant breeding program. Plus, I've also got a little bit of land myself for I grow some soybeans and some sugarcane. So it's been very interesting to come over here and talk to the soybean growers in America.
My name's Trent Stainlay. I'm from the same town in Australia as Nathan, Grafton. I work for a local ag retailer. We provide a bit of advice to growers in our area. Soybeans, corn, sugarcane, major crops. There's a whole pile of other things that go on there, small crop wise too. So it's been a good tour, learn a lot. So production systems might vary, but the way people get the most out of the system can be applied to our system. So it's been good to come along.
There's a couple of different farming systems, I suppose. There's the sugarcane soybean farming system. So our sugarcane farmers are setting up on controlled traffic over there. So that's basically matching our harvesters and our tractors. So that's on a 1.8, 1.9 metre row spacing. So they're going in and out of the sugarcane cycle with their soybeans, basically using no tillage or strip tillage. So it's sort of similar to some of the strip tillage machinery that's on display here, but we're trying to vertical till slightly wider bed top, about 3 foot wide on the bed top. We're typically coming out of our cane cycles, doing a little bit of tillage, and then planting our soybeans using minimum tillage or strip tillage techniques, and then going from our soybeans into our sugarcane systems, either zero till or strip till. So similar concepts to some of the strip tillers that we're using here, but just a little bit wider, I suppose. And then there's the other system when we sort of move a little bit west from the coast, from where we are, where sugarcane is too cold for sugarcane. Guys are growing summer crops and winter crops, so we can get away with 2 crops per year. Guys are growing soybeans or corn in the summer, and then going through and planting winter cereals in the winter, or winter pulses, depending on their system. But that system sort of allows guys to use these sort of strip till units, and they are using these units to basically get through their stubble and build that planting profile for their either winter or summer crops.
That's probably the only other system. There's an even more lower input system for graziers, like cattle ranchers, so to speak, where soybeans are a bit of a cash crop over summer, and then they'll plant a winter forage in there, but it's rare for strip till. They're more zero till, no till for those guys. We also use as a paddock renovation tool, soybeans, so they might dabble with a few other crops as a cash crop, but that's pretty much it. That's pretty popular farming system away from the coast.
Yep. So we also battle some pretty heavy clays. So we've got some guys that are using reduced tillage controlled traffic systems there to sort of reduce the amount of cultivation or passes on their land, because we're from a really high rainfall zone. We can get up over 3 foot of rain a year.
More, 4.
Up
the
to
average
4
will
foot
be 4,
of rain.
but it could vary by 50% up or down on that.
So guys are using controlled traffic and strip till farming systems to basically reduce the number of passes they have to get on their land, and to sort of get away from that heavy cultivation and just use that vertical tillage in the growing zone. Really helps them with their trafficability and their seed emergence.
So what kind of traction or growth have you guys seen with strip till in your area? Is it something that you see as a growing practice? Is there interest? Is there a need for growers in Australia to kind of go this route?
It's in the earlier days of adoption, but I think the growth will be stronger. Mostly people will be attracted to the cost savings. It just means you can get over it a little bit quicker at that critical moisture. Like a lot of times we're probably, unlike you guys this year especially, we're actually trying to conserve the moisture, get on till at the right time, get your planting operation done at the right time, and strip till just lets you get on with doing those jobs rather than tilling the whole paddock. So, and that's where I think as people get squeezed a little bit on costs and everyone's trying to do more acres with less full-time equivalents or less labour input, I think that'll be the path that draws people into it. There's other advantages too, which they'll get later on, but I think the money will get people in first.
Yeah, so we've been on a bit of a journey. 10 to 15 years ago, GPS control traffic has really come into the fore. That's become affordable. So guys, a lot of the farmers over there have got GPS. So they've combined that with the control traffic. There have been guys looking at zero tillage. But yeah, look, they've had a few issues with zero tillage, with just basically the ground setting hard, and because we get that high rainfall, it does actually, the rainfall compacts the ground. So yeah, that's where strip tillage has just started to come in to complement that whole control traffic system. And I can see application of fertilizers through strip tillage maybe being the next step, and also subsoil application of ameliorants like lime and gypsum and even compost. Guys are really looking down that track. So yeah, I think that will probably be the next step with our strip tillage units.
So how long have you been strip tilling?
Probably since about 2012. So yeah, what's that? 7 or 8 years. But the guys that have sort of set up with the controlled traffic over in Australia have really just started to see the benefits. Probably 5 years on, have seen their soil BOTA increase, that compaction level reduce in the growing zone. So I think the guys are now just starting to see the benefits of that controlled traffic reduced tillage system, which is similar to what the guys have been saying in the opening talks today. It's taken them up to 5 or 6 years to actually see some of the results through their soil health and their yield.
So what are you seeing, Trent, as far as from the retail side? Are you seeing more experience kind of start developing strip till, and how are you advising, I guess, customers, farmers that you have that are kind of in that system?
Oh, I think, it's the next level we're getting to is, like Nathan said, first came RTK and the guidance, the repeatability that we needed. Now the equipment's filtering through to Australia, both locally and imported. And I think people are we're just starting to get our heads around, particularly, it was interesting to be in a talk before about fertilizer placement in strip till, those kind of things. I think it'll sort of take us to the next level. Like, we'll move on from just broadcasting things on paddocks, and it was a bit hit and miss. I think now we'll be a lot more strategic about what we can place where and when, whereas before, it was just put on the spreader and throw it out there and hope for the best. So we'll also be a little bit protected from loss, a bit like you're talking about here. And like everywhere, we're the same as you. Everyone's under a little bit of pressure to be a little more environmentally conscious and have a better stewardship. So product. So I think it'll take us down that path. It'll sort of go hand in glove with variable rate technologies and things like that too as they come online. So I think that's where it'll take us.
So just a couple more questions, but so Nathan, you talked a little bit about obviously benefits. We've heard, like you said, it takes a few years to realize those. You're obviously at a point where you're probably starting to see some of those more consistent gains, or just to the point where some of the other benefits are kicking in. Have you been able to kind of quantify or identify some of the things that you think stand out in terms of the benefits of your system?
Well, obviously with the controlled traffic system, this year, or at the moment, we're in a record drought in Australia. So one of the things that our farmers have seen is that have been on the system for a little while is increased moisture retention in that growing zone. So as we heard before, cultivation, it might seem to fluff the soil up, but actually it does shed a lot more. Those conventional systems do shed a lot more water than what a controlled traffic minimum till system does. So in drought years, I think guys have seen a bit more moisture retention in that growing zone. As I said, it's been a really, really big drought over there, and we've had guys that haven't planted a soybean all summer over there just because of the drought. So that's sort of coincided with some record prices over there as well. So that's been a bit of a downer. But look, I think that system that we're looking at is and will proof us against environmental conditions. So we're on a raised bed system. So high rainfall areas, that water sheds. What it doesn't take in, it'll shed off and drain. We don't have tiling over there, so we're sort of laser levelling our land and using raised beds to shed that water in those high rainfall zones. But yeah, it's guys are now seeing some yield benefits. They're getting on their ground quicker. The trafficability is a lot better, so it doesn't take as long for them to get on the ground after a rain event. So guys that are doing it well, and they're not going back to what they used to do. They see the benefits in it, and are continually trying to improve their systems to basically proof them against environmental conditions. Yeah.
So, last question on this subject, but obviously you guys have been able to interact, with North America, and particularly for strip till with some of the titles that we produce, we see a pretty large international interest. We'll have a lot of people follow us, from different parts of the globe, whether it's Australia or Europe, different areas. So there seems to be definitely an international appeal on a certain level for strip till. So was curious, when you're thinking about what you guys are doing compared to other areas, whether it's North America, what are some of the differences you're encountering? And we talked about some of the similarities, but are there areas where, you see a greater need to advance the practice in your area compared to what we're doing? Are there areas you feel you're, further ahead with what we're doing?
I suppose some of the biggest differences we've seen, some of your yields are fairly high in around Illinois. So that's probably more to do with soil type and environment more than anything, I think. But there are some management issues and practices there, like seed treating. We don't do a lot of seed treatments in Australia for fungicide and insecticide, so that's something that we've learnt and we'll take back and investigate. And coinciding your seed treating with an early plant. So the guys here are trying to get their reproductive cycle going to coincide with the longest day of the year, which we can do that. We'll have to plan a little bit earlier, and so that's something we're going to take back for sure. And just the scale. We've got pretty small farms compared to you guys here. There's just a lot of scale here, and due to that fact, the guys are trying to produce soybeans efficiently by using strip tillage and that sort of equipment, and minimising the passes they have over their country. So, even though we're a bit smaller scale, we can still learn from the efficiencies that the guys in America have. That's for sure. We don't have any genetically modified crops in Australia, so we're a bit blown away by the technology in the seed that you guys have. But that's something that we won't be going. We don't produce genetically modified food crops in Australia. So that's a pretty big difference that we have over there.
Anything to add, Trent?
Oh no, that's what I was thinking. It's probably the level of management that you guys apply. Like Australia's generally a broader scale, lower input, lower yield kind of thing. So whereas here, probably driven by land prices and various other things, and maybe the genetic potential of the seed you're putting in and the quality of the land. Like everything's managed much more, what's the right word? I guess managed, intensively. That's the one I'm trying to think of. Thanks, mate.
That's all right.
So that's sort of, over time we'll sort of get that way a little bit too. So you can take that kind of skill set or some of that knowledge back with us. That'd be good.
So the leaf sampling for nutrients is a practice that the guys really get into here that we probably don't do as much in Australia. So I think we could probably try and manage our nutrients throughout our crop cycle a little better. So that's something that we'll look at doing over there, definitely. There's a lot of similarities there around timing of planting and plant populations and how that affects the architecture of the soybean plant and how it relates to yield. So a lot of the stuff we're doing in Australia is very similar to you guys here in that form. So yeah, it sort of gives you a bit of confidence that you're on the right track when you're looking at different issues in soybean growing. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, and obviously that's a good segue now, and that brought you guys to the Strip Till conference this year. So obviously looking for more of that knowledge, trying to build on it, trying to exchange ideas, and take home some of those things. Maybe just talk a little bit about kind of what brought you guys here. What are some of the early experiences you've had at the event, and maybe are there some highlights or some take-home elements that you found particularly valuable?
I found actually there was a session in there before about placing fertilizer in strip tilling, and just fertilizer management or nutrition management in general. Got a lot out of that. Like I said, we're at the infancy of it, so we probably didn't have that much to contribute, but just to be in the room while the conversations are going on, it was good actually. So, and we got to ask a few questions and got some questions answered, so it was good.
Yeah, one of the keynote speakers this morning was talking about sending smoke up the tiles, or smoking the tile, which is, I've never heard of that before.
That's different.
Obviously the tiles are there to take water out of the paddock, but the guys are using that to demonstrate, or pump smoke back up there to demonstrate
Soil
the pore
health.
space and the soil health. So yeah, it was pretty good to see the smoke coming up through the soil to illustrate soil health. Yeah, I've never heard of that before. We don't have tiles over in Australia, so I don't know if we can
unfortunately we can't do it.
But it was an very interesting talk about how those guys are managing their soil health and how they use that as an extension tool to show farmers the pore space in their soil. But like a lot of this strip till machinery, I have been, because I've been a subscriber to your magazine over the last few years, and you're always getting updates on how the strip till units are coming along and how they've evolved over the last 10 years, and it's just amazing how much technology can get jammed into such a small little row unit. And one of the reasons we came here just to see how that technology has advanced over the last few years, and it's been well worthwhile.
Perfect. Wrapping up here, just wondering if you guys could say a few words about the size of the group you guys came over with here, and a little bit about kind of the investment. Obviously there's a financial investment, but certainly a time investment as well, to carve out the time to come to this event, and just what your kind of what brought you guys here, and that you obviously there's something here that you felt was going to be worth your time to get out here. So I don't know, maybe we could get a couple of comments just again on how many people you came out with, and kind of that experience that you behind that.
We've got 22 people on the trip, so it's a 2-week trip. So we started up in Minneapolis, and we just talked to some different soybean associations as we travelled through the Midwest, and we basically timed the trip so we could finish up at the Strip Till conference and finish the trip on a high. So we've got agri resellers like Trent.
Diverse group.
We've got a very diverse group. We've got some seed processors on the group. I represent the New South Wales Department of Primary Industries, the soybean breeding program with GRDC and CSIRO, and a very diverse group of farmers. So we're based in northern New South Wales, Trent and myself, but we've got farmers and seed processors that go all the way up to Cairns in far north Queensland. So very diverse group of people. Shane Causley's an organiser. He's been over here. He brings a group over every year, as you know. So he's done a fantastic job on keeping costs down. So it makes it affordable for all of us to come over and spend time over here. And he puts a good itinerary together. The guys, as I said before, are just looking to grow their crops more efficiently whilst looking after their soil. And I think they'll get some real benefits out of increased production out of adopting some of the systems that we've seen here, for sure.
Any additional thoughts?
Oh no, it's been a great trip. It's been really good to build the connections, and it is a diverse group. So we've sort of seen everything from breeders to strip tool conferences, machinery manufacturers. It's been good, but it's been great to build the connections, learn a few new things on the way, plenty of things on the way. So and people have been more than generous with their time. They answer all the questions. Everything's answered freely, so it's been really good like that, and people have been very welcoming. So it's been an excellent trip.
Yep. We built up contacts along the way. As Trent said, we've got contacts from farmers, seed processors,
Soybean Association, Minnesota Soybean Association,
equipment manufacturers. So once this trip's over, we can we've got that base there, and we've got those contacts there that we can grow on, and everyone's been really, really welcoming, and haven't held back any information. So it's been an excellent trip.
Sure. Last question, I promise. We've been fortunate to have some international attendees here over the years at this event in particular, and from all over. And there's a group here from New Zealand as well. But thinking about kind of the international interest, for somebody that might be considering attending this event from a different country, might be on the fence thinking, I don't know, is it worth my time? It's such a big commitment to come over here. What advice might you guys have for somebody that is unsure of whether or not this is worth their time to come over?
Look, I'd definitely recommend it. Look, we've integrated this conference with a lot of farm visits, which I'd recommend. We've basically talked to a lot of people over the 2 weeks preceding this conference, which has built up our knowledge, and this has basically been a good finish to our trip. Look, we've had to travel a long way, but definitely worthwhile the amount of information that we've gathered, and we'll be able to take home and share with our growers in our districts and up and down the east coast of Australia. I think it's money well spent, and an excellent time.
Yeah, this conference kind of ties it all together a little bit, so it's been good. We sort of got everything pretty much we visited in the last 10 or 11 days. Yeah, it sort of comes together pretty neatly here, really. And
you guys run a good conference. It's well set up. So it's a credit to you getting the speakers here, and getting all your manufacturers here and sponsors here. It's been great.